You did everything right, and your basil still turned black. 6 plants sat on the deck all summer. Before the first frost, you washed the leaves, spun them dry, packed them in oil, filled the ice tray, and slid it into the freezer. 3 months later, you pull out a cube for pasta. It looks like used motor oil. Now you are back at Walmart buying another jar that will not taste like the plant you just killed. You have the touch. The method is the problem. Basil, parsley, dill, oregano, cilantro, mint, sage, thyme, rosemary, and chives do not share one preservation rule. Each has a method that works better. And basil has one 15-second step that most freezing tutorials skip. Miss it, and months of summer work end up as winter trash. Number 1. Parsley. The teaspoon of water that keeps it green 6 months. You pull the last of your parsley in October, wash it, chop it, dump it in a jar of oil, and by December it is a slimy mess in the back of your fridge. Wrong method for this one. Parsley is a freeze herb, not a dry herb. Every guide that tells you to hang it in the pantry is setting you up for a jar of dust. The part everyone misses on parsley is what happens to the oil. A parsley leaf is basically a sheet of water holding a few drops of oil. Dry the leaf and you lose the oil with the water. Freeze the leaf and you lock the oil in. So chop the leaves, drop in a teaspoon of water per cube, and freeze the tray. That is why the cube works and the pantry jar does not. The cultivar matters. Italian flatleaf. The one called Petroselinum crispum neapolitanum on the seed packet. Freezes cleaner than curled. Flatter leaf, less water pocket. Grown as an annual in zones 3 through 9. Harvest in the morning after the dew dries, before the plant sends up flowers. The method is simple. Wash, spin dry, chop fine. Pack the chopped leaves tight into ice cube trays. 1 teaspoon of water on top of each cube. Freeze. Pop the cubes out and drop them into a bag. 6 months on the shelf next to your peas. One thing to be honest about. Frozen parsley is for cooking, not garnish. When it thaws, the leaves go limp. Fresh sprigs for the plate, cubes for the pot. 1 tray of cubes replaces the parsley jar you would buy in January. 1 ice cube. 1 October garden. 1 January soup that tastes like fall. Number 2. Dill. Why chopping it before the freezer kills the flavor. If you have been chopping dill before freezing, stop. It does not help. Just wrap the whole stem. The step most people add is the one you can skip. I used to chop mine like everyone else. Then, one summer, I noticed the smell was fading before the leaf hit the bag. Dillweed is not like parsley. It is not like basil. It is almost all volatile oil sitting in tiny pockets on hair-thin fronds. Chop first. You cut open those pockets and let the oil breathe off into your kitchen air. Freeze the sprig whole, and the pockets stay sealed until the leaf hits the pot. 2 cultivars carry the weight. Bouquet is the standard. Tall, heavy on leaves, the one every seed catalog stocks. Fern leaf is the dwarf version, 18 to 24 inches, made for a container on the patio. Annual in zones 3 through 11. Self-seeds if you let a few flowers go. So plant it once, and you have dill for years. The method has 3 steps. Cut 3 or 4 sprigs at a time, stem still attached. Wrap them in a sheet of plastic wrap, then a layer of aluminum foil over that. Into the freezer. 6 months later. Unwrap. Snip what you need for the pickles or the salmon. Wrap the rest back up. Same flavor as the day you cut it. Whole sprigs save the herb and the prep time. Both cost you nothing. The knife stays in the drawer. Number 3. Oregano. The herb, where dried, actually beats fresh. Fresh oregano off the plant tastes green, boring. Dried oregano is what pizza actually tastes like. That is not a coincidence. You open the oregano jar in February, and the smell reaches you before the lid clears the rim. That is the moment you understand why the pizza place charges what they charge. Oregano is the exception to the fresh is always better rule. It is one of the very few herbs that gets stronger when you dry it, not weaker. Fresh. The flavor is diluted in a leaf that is mostly water. Dry the leaf out, the water goes, the flavor stays. What is left is pure concentrate. Fresh oregano is a sponge with a drop of pizza in it. Dry oregano is that drop after the sponge is gone. Oregano keeps its strongest oils when it dries slowly at room temperature. Water leaves, aroma stays. That is why hang drying works for this one and not for basil or parsley. Grow Greek oregano, the one called Oreganum vulgare hirtum on the seed rack. It carries the strongest flavor of any culinary variety. Common oregano is milder, decent, but the Greek is what turns a bowl of tomato sauce into pizza. Perennial in zones 5 through 9. Harvest in the morning, before the flowers open, right when the plant is loading up its oil pockets for the season. Old-timers hang oregano for 2 weeks. That is the number. The method is one you cannot mess up. Bundle 5 to 7 stems together with twine or a rubber band. Hang the bundle upside down in a dry, dark spot with some air movement. 2 weeks. Strip the leaves off the stems, crumble into a glass jar, seal the lid. Use the pantry jar within 3 months. Refrigerate or freeze for up to a year. 2 weeks of doing nothing, and you have better oregano than the store sells. But the next herb on this list is the one that made me throw out 3 seasons of failed experiments before I found the answer. Number 4. Cilantro. The only method that stops it turning to brown mush. A fresh cilantro bunch is about 86 cents at Walmart. Verified Walmart.com, July 2026. You buy one every week. Use half for tacos on Tuesday. Watch the other half turn to slime by Friday. Then you do it again next week. Cilantro is the hardest herb in your garden to preserve. Dry it. The flavor disappears entirely. Freeze the leaves raw. They turn to brown mush. There is one method that saves it, and it took me 3 summers to find. The first time I froze cilantro for winter. I did what every tutorial said. Washed it, spun it dry, packed a Ziploc, stuck it in the freezer in May. Opened the bag in October to make chili, and pulled out what looked like green paste with brown edges. Threw the whole bag in the trash. 12 bunches. Erased. And stood at the counter, thinking about that summer's garden. Here is why raw freeze fails. Cilantro leaves are the paper-thin end of the herb spectrum. Freeze the leaf dry. The water inside expands. The cell walls shred. The leaf turns to juice. You end up with slush that used to be cilantro. Oil does not save the texture. Freezing still bursts cell walls. But it coats the leaf, keeps more aroma in the cube, and makes frozen cilantro easy to drop into hot food. The method is exact. Chop the cilantro fine, stems and all. Fill an ice cube tray 3/4 full. Top each cube with olive oil until the cilantro is covered. Freeze overnight, pop them out into a bag. 6 months on the shelf for best flavor. Grow Calypso or Slow Bolt, the 2 slowest bolt cultivars. Cool season crop, zone 2 through 11 as an annual. Succession seed every 3 weeks from March through October. Full sun in the morning, afternoon shade in the south. Oil cube cilantro belongs in cooked food, not salsa. If you need fresh, grow it year-round with succession planting. February chili, no wasted bunch. Number 5. Mint. The reason dried mint never tastes like the plant. Mint takes over your yard by August. You cannot drink enough tea to keep up. Even the neighbors stop taking free bunches. Freeze it. Mint changes depending on what you plan to cook. Both spearmint and peppermint go into oil cubes the same way. Spearmint, Mentha spicata, is the standard for cooking, tabbouleh, cocktails, sauces. Peppermint, Mentha cross piperita is the stronger one, the tea and dessert herb. Keep them in separate pots because both spread by runners and tangle together fast. The flavor compound in mint is menthol, and menthol is volatile at room temperature. Dry the leaves and you lose a lot of that bright, cooling aroma with the water. Freeze the leaves in oil, and the oil holds the aroma in place. Tea forgives dried mint. Dinner does not. That is why you preserve mint by freezing, not drying, unless you are making tea and do not care about the top notes. The method is the same as the basil oil cube. Chop the leaves fine, pack an ice cube tray 3/4 full, top with olive oil, freeze. Pop the cubes, drop them into a freezer bag. 6 months for peak flavor. One warning: mint spreads like it has a grudge. Perennial in zones 4 through 9, and it does not stop at the border. It colonizes the neighbor's yard and the sidewalk cracks. Grow it in a 12-inch container, sunk into the ground or set on the patio. I keep one on the deck and pull 6 trays of cubes off it every summer. Never had to buy dried mint from the store. Keep one pot. Skip the dried jar. Number 6. Sage. Why the dehydrator is the wrong tool. If you own a dehydrator and you have been running it for sage, unplug it. The wall works. Grandma did not own a dehydrator. She had twine and a drywall. Sage is one of the easiest herbs to preserve. A dehydrator strips the flavor along with the water. A hanging bundle in your garage removes water at room temperature. No heat damage. I used to run a dehydrator every summer for sage. Then one August I hung a bundle in the garage on a whim and never plugged the dehydrator in again. What most people miss on sage is texture. Sage leaves are thick, almost leathery. Water leaves slowly. Mold does not get a chance. Hang a bundle for 3 weeks and the leaves come out dry, green, and still smelling like Thanksgiving stuffing. Grow Berggarten if you want broad leaves that dry evenly. Common garden sage, Salvia officinalis, works just as well. Perennial in zones 4 through 8. One plant gives you more sage than a family can use in a year. 3 tools. Cut 8 to 10 stems, tie them with twine. Hang the bundle upside down from a nail in a dry, dark spot with airflow. 2 to 3 weeks. Strip the leaves, crumble them into a glass jar, seal the lid. Use the pantry jar within 3 months. Refrigerate or freeze for up to a year. One thing about humid climates. If your summer humidity runs above 70%, air drying can take 4 weeks or mold. Dry at 180 degrees on a cookie sheet for 3 to 4 hours instead. The dehydrator costs $80. The nail is free. Twine, nail, done. The next entry is the one every tutorial gets wrong. 15 seconds is the difference between green basil and blackened cubes, and I still have not seen a single freezing channel show it done right. Number 7. Basil, the 15-second step every tutorial skips. You freeze your basil the way every video shows. Wash, chop, oil, ice tray, freezer. Open the tray in December and half the cubes are black. You blame yourself, or you blame the plant. Neither is the problem. Basil is the one this video has been building toward. There is one reliable way to keep it green. 15 seconds. I was reading a Penn State Extension bulletin on freezing herbs one November evening and hit a sentence that stopped me cold. Blanch basil leaves for 15 seconds. Ice water bath. That is the whole thing. I had been growing basil 8 years by then. I had never blanched a single leaf. Nobody I had watched or read ever did. Every winter oil cube I made came out dark, and I had assumed that was just what basil does. It is not. It is what basil does when you skip that step. Penn State lists it as an option for larger herbs. Not the only way to freeze basil, but the step most oil cube tutorials leave out. Here is what makes basil different. Basil leaves are packed with enzymes that switch on the moment the leaf gets damaged. Freezing damages the leaf. Damaged leaf plus active enzyme equals black. 15 seconds in boiling water shuts the enzyme down before the leaf ever sees the freezer. Ice bath stops the leaf from cooking further. Now the leaf goes into the freezer green, and it stays green. 15 seconds, then get it cold. The method. Bring the water to a rolling boil. Set your basil leaves in a colander. Lower the colander for 15 seconds, then move it straight into ice water for another 15. Pat the leaves dry, flash freeze on a cookie sheet for 2 hours, and bag. 6 months, airtight. Grow Genovese for the classic pesto flavor. 24 to 30 inches tall, large leaves, slow to bolt. Most U.S. gardeners grow Genovese basil as an annual. Only warm, frost-free climates can keep it going outdoors year-round. Harvest morning after the dew dries. Pinch flower buds to keep leaves coming. This works whether basil is Genovese, Thai, purple, or sweet, as long as leaves are picked that day. Blanching does not resurrect old leaves off the counter. The money on this one is clean. A 19.3-ounce Bonnie Plants sweet basil is $5.98 at Home Depot. Verified July 2026. That one plant, treated right, gives you enough leaves for 20 to 30 frozen cubes over a summer. Great value dried basil is $1.08 at Walmart, or gourmet organic is $8.49. Neither will taste like the plant. 15 seconds. That is what stands between a jar of blackened cubes and green basil in February. If that 15-second blanch just saved your winter basil, subscribe and turn on the bell. Every video gets this specific. Number 8. Thyme. Freeze the whole sprig, never the loose leaves. Thyme leaves are so small you spend more time picking them off the stem than you spend cooking. If you have been doing that before freezing, stop. Freeze the whole stem. The hidden advantage shows up after the sprig freezes. Same wrap method as dill, but for a different reason. With dill, you keep the sprig whole, because chopping releases the oils too early. With thyme, you keep the sprig whole because frozen leaves strip off the stem in seconds. Fresh thyme leaves cling. Frozen ones do not. The part most people miss is timing. Strip the leaves after they freeze, not before. Run your thumb and finger down a frozen thyme sprig, and the leaves fall off like ice sliding off a windshield. 3 seconds per sprig. Straight into a soup pot or roast pan. No knife needed. Grow English thyme, Thymus vulgaris, if you want the standard flavor for stews and roasted meat. French thyme has narrower leaves and a more delicate taste, better for lighter dishes and fish. Perennial in zones 5 through 9. Harvest before the plant flowers, morning after the dew has dried. The setup is fast. Cut 3 or 4 sprigs at a time, leaves still on. Wrap them in plastic wrap, then aluminum foil over that. Into the freezer. 6 months on the shelf, ready to strip when you cook. No stripped leaves, no wasted bunch, no extra tool. Strip it frozen. Dinner moves on. Number 9. Rosemary. The one herb you should not preserve at all. You do not need to preserve rosemary. In Zone 7 and warmer, your plant is right there in December. Go pick a sprig. Rosemary is the outlier on this list. The best preservation method for this one is not preserving at all. After 20 years of testing preservation methods on rosemary, the answer keeps coming back the same. Do not preserve it. Grow it. The thing that changes when you actually look at a Zone 6 winter is what the plant already does for you. Rosemary is evergreen in Zone 7 and warmer with the right cultivar. Narrow needles, thick cuticles, low water content. A light frost is one thing. A wet Zone 6 winter is another. A December walk to your bush is not preservation. It is harvest. Grow ARP if you are in Zone 7 or warmer. Cold hardy cultivar bred for exactly this. Needs a sheltered spot, mulch over the roots in winter, and drainage that keeps roots dry. In protected zone 6B, ARP can survive, but it is a gamble, not a promise. Tuscan blue is bigger and more productive, but only reliable in zones 8 through 10. Walk out with kitchen scissors, cut a 4 to 6 inch sprig, and head back inside. 90 seconds. Zone 5 is different. ARP will die in a bad winter no matter how much mulch you pile on. Grow it in a container and bring it indoors before the first hard frost. Or dry a big harvest in September and store the jar for a year. In Zone 7 and warmer, the plant is the free winter jar. The best preservation for rosemary is a plant that keeps growing. One more herb. And this one breaks the oil cube rule of everything I've told you so far. Number 10. Chives, the herb that breaks the oil cube rule. You have been building oil cubes all through this list. Basil, cilantro, mint. Chives are where the oil cube rule quits working. Chives look like they should follow the same rule. Thin leaves, high water, delicate flavor. Every other delicate herb in this video wanted oil. Chives do not. An old gardener I know, guy who has been growing his own allium since the 70s, showed me this the summer I was trying to force chives into oil cubes like every other herb. He watched me do it, said I was wasting the chives. Take the tray out, chop them dry, spread them on a sheet pan, freeze flat. I did what he said. The difference the next January in a baked potato was not close. His method has been on my counter ever since. Chives are essentially miniature onions with thin walls. Freeze them dry packed. They crumble like snow when you crush the bag. Oil coats every piece and muffles the sharp onion bite that makes chives worth having. The oil was the problem, not the freezer. The method is straight. 1/4-inch segments, spread thin on a cookie sheet lined with parchment, freeze flat for 2 hours. Into a freezer bag, up to 6 months on the shelf. Grow common chives, Allium chenoprasum, for the standard onion flavor. Perennial in zones 3 through 10. Garlic chives, Allium tuberosum, gives you the garlic version with flat blades. Perennial in zones 3 through 9, spreads aggressively if you let it seed. Save dry-packed chives for the finish, not the pot. They melt away if you cook them into a dish. Freeze 1 tray now and skip the clamshell at the store all winter. The one herb where the rule of oil cubes breaks. Dry pack. Done. Your basil did not fail because you lacked a green thumb. It failed because one preservation rule was being forced onto 10 different plants. 10 herbs, 3 methods. Not one method for every herb. 10 decisions, 1 per plant. Match the method to the leaf, and winter stops tasting like leftovers. The seed packet does not tell you which method wins. Now you know. On the morning before your first forecast frost, cut a bowl of green basil leaves. Bring them inside, boil the water, and set out the ice bath. 15 seconds hot, 15 seconds cold. Pat the leaves dry, flash freeze them on a sheet pan, and seal them in a freezer bag. That is your first bag of green basil that will still taste like August in February. Growing the herb is only half the job. The right match is what stands between a bag of green basil in February and a bag in the trash.